So our next presenter is also a good friend, Robert Torres, who we first met, I think, as a senior program officer for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. His portfolio involved, I believe it's in your briefs, both the idea of anytime, anywhere learning, and then particularly efforts in games. His background was at the Institute of Play in New York, where he was chief research officer and started a school that was game-based and called Quest for Learning. Now he has, he seems to come and go from Bangalore, India to New York, and we're grateful that he's willing to get on a plane and speak with us. He is the Chief Learning Officer of X-Step, which I have now understood to mean First Step, in a very extraordinary project in India, and I think he'll be able to talk to you about that. Thank you, Robert.
You want to grab that one? Yep. Okay. Hi, everyone. So, yes, I am working for the last 10 months on this extraordinary project, so extraordinary that it is surreal in its ambition. And you'll see in goal number 1 up there on the screen how ambitious this project is. And when I got the email for this project, you know, it's one of those emails that you cannot believe that you are getting. When you are in this field, and I remember Bob Mislevy is sitting in this room, or I think he is, there he is, 10 years ago, sitting in a small room and listening to perhaps the first talk on the idea that games could serve as vehicles to which to do assessment. After having done his work at Cisco. And so here we are, and Crest has made us do and feel empirical about it. So we really thank Crest for that. And 3 years ago, started these conferences, and the buzz was amazing then, and now we feel actually more formal and stuffy, which we should, because we have a lot to feel proud of in terms of the corpus of research and data that we have. So I'm working on this project in Bangalore, or it's based in Bangalore, so a national project, with the ambition to serve or to teach over the next 5 years, 200 million students, literacy and math and non-cognitive skills, a set of them, through video games in grades first through 5. They don't have a kindergarten. But what that means is that because there's such a ramp up and there's such a need, that means that pre-K are the skills that we're teaching, right? Because there's emergent literacy. So really, from skills pre-K through grade 5 are the skills that we're tackling. So today I'm going to talk to you a bit about the organization at large, and then our strategy and our adaptive infrastructure or the assessment model we're using, and then offer an invitation. And an invitation because we could not need more help, right? It is a project that is incentivizing and activating an international market. What's nice about this project is that it is fully funded by a billionaire who created Infosys. And so it's a project that, it's a not-for-profit that, unlike many of these kind of projects where we beg for funding, right? This one is funded. And so, and it's also unlike a foundation where we go through cycles of funding and beg. This one, usually, if they like you, one conversation leads to a check pretty quickly. There is a big need for content, for researchers, and for learning masters, as you'll see at the end, what I call, because so few of us know about learning, as we know. So that is what it is. It's a not-for-profit organization. I'll talk about our strategy. And there's been a theme in this conference, and the theme will go on even later today, about an ecosystem approach. There is no way that one game or even a set of games will solve a problem, right? That we have to understand that there's no one solution that will be a silver bullet, that there has to be surround curriculum, that there has to be a way that we are galvanizing teachers and entrepreneurs and parents, and how do we think about these communities when we think of solutions? And so for us in India, we have to think about that whole ecology that is mediated by technology, and how do we bring them into a system that is mediated by technology, but technology is only but a means that facilitates, but is by no way, the solution itself. It is very much an ecosystem approach. Sasha talked about that yesterday, and he and I talked about it over dinner, and I'm really glad that he's thinking that way. It's a personalized learning augmentation tool, meaning that it will augment what already is happening. We cannot think, again, that it is a solution that will replace, but that we have to think about how it will support what goes on and improve what goes on. And then it's a platform that will be used for scale and speed. So this team that I am working with is it's the killer team. Like this team. So this is the team that so in the U.S. and in the U.K. They are both these countries are thinking about a biometrics solution to an identity system, right? India is the only and first country that has actually developed one, right? It is controversial. They have an identity system through which we have Social Security cards and our driver's license. Says that their identity system is through your iris. It's a retinal identity system. The team that I work with created it, and they've scaled it in a matter of 3 years to 900 million people. So scaling is not an issue for this team, nor is thinking through very complex technology projects. So that's exciting, right? And so working with a team that that thinks through the complexities of at that scale is very exciting. And so, and also thinking about the fact that we have to get technology to communities where 60% of the country still lives within 60% of the country has an agricultural economy, meaning most people live in very rural communities, and all of this is going to be done through mobile technologies. It's going to be, so, the complexities are huge. And again, your help, everyone in this room, anyone who wants to be involved. I put this slide up just because definitions and language, and I don't think this will be the end all definition of what we mean by personalized learning, but this is my attempt, right? I'm asked constantly, Robert, what do you mean by personalized learning? So this is one 48-hour without sleeping attempt. And so, I think at its core, what we want to say is that, and I love that Yoda is there, can we please pay attention to the child, please? I went to Bank Street, which, I taught at Teach for America. I was the president of Teach for America, and I learned nothing about learning, ever. I finally learned something about learning when I went to Bank Street, where I learned to observe children. And I learned a lot about teaching, but nothing about learning. And so, this system is going to try to learn about a lot about the child, and our personalization strategy, our algorithms. And I read a lot of 5-page math algorithms all the time from our mathematicians, trying to make them tell me about how we're learning about the child. So a little bit about the landscape of India. So a quarter of the kids there know, in the 5th grade, know how to do division. Less than half of the kids in grade 5 can read. The education lag problem hypothesis is, our hypothesis is that we can't detect gaps. And so we have devised a system where we have created a micro gap system. So we've really narrowed down into micro concepts. Taking the Common Core, taking the NCRT, and working with CREST very closely to really hone down on what it means to actually master a concept, and then assessing that and working with and CREST's ontologies. CREST has been amazing. Thank you so much. I'll let you read that slide. That's part of our solution. We started by asking these questions. I'm moving quicker. And our learning model is based on these five core elements. We've developed a concept map that is composed of 3 domains. They are around literacy, numeracy, and these metacognitive skills. And we interchangeably call them metacognitive or cognitive functions. As the field is confused, we are too. We've developed micro concepts for each of those. And we have maps for each of those. So a lot of this year has been tool development and then pilots. And we pilot super fast. So we have started with 85 kids. We're now up to 500 kids, and by December we'll be up to 200,000 kids. And we do these rapid, very fast pilots. We have developed teaching, learning, and assessment methods maps, and there's a list there that is we've narrowed down based on the learning sciences, and I'll give you the definitions because you should never let me get away with listing those and not give you definitions. An assessment framework, a content library that is based on those principles, and I hope you can read quickly because I can't go through all of those things. And then most importantly, where Yoda comes in is the learner profile analysis system. Like, how do we really get to understand the child? What questions are we asking constantly? And how do we develop a system that gets smarter on its own all the time? How do we create an algorithm that is teaching itself all the time, right? So I put in this slide this morning because I created these categories of teaching strategies, and I said I better define that a little bit. There they are. And these are just based on learning sciences, and there are so many of these. So I just try to narrow them down, and I gave them names that were comprehensible to my team, none of whom are really education people. Here, what you get is this idea that we assess and we assign. We assess and we assign. And it's this iterative process, and advancement happens based on that process of assessing and assigning. What you see under assign are the math, literacy, and cognitive functions. It's an ontology. And I wanted to give you an example of a child going through the process, and you can talk to me more privately. The ecosystem approach, there are 3 parts of the ecosystem. There's a user ecosystem, a content ecosystem, and then a technology platform. And there are dashboards for each of those. This is our timeline. It's ambitious, as I mentioned. We launched in April with our first pilots. And these are our partners whom we're very proud of. And I'm happy that I've been able to bring a lot of them from the Gates Foundation, including Zoran, the Crest, Jim G, and many others. And I want to say thank you and a welcome invitation. We need mobile content developers, learning masters, and researchers. I'm out of cards. There's my email. Thanks so much.
Hang on for questions, Robert, okay?
Okay.
Okay.